The luxury travel market size was valued at an estimated $945.6 billion in 2019 and is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 11.1% during the time span of 2021 to 2027 to reach $1,198.3 billion by 2027. All of this according to Allied Market Research. Shane Mahoney is a luxury travel specialist with one mission in mind. He started his company, Lugos Travel, in response to his pursuit and passion for interesting vacations. In his gut, he strongly believed that people were becoming complacent about vacations and often opted for the all-inclusive option because it offered little hassle and almost no planning. He thought, who has the time to plan a luxury vacation in a foreign land? It was then Mahoney felt he had found his secret sauce and cracked the code on offering a different vacationing experience. Mahoney joined me this week to have an in-depth conversation about luxury travel and how his approach is putting smiles on his clients' faces by offering them unique and first-rate experiences which allows them to travel with just the people they want and no one else. Are you intrigued to learn more? Well, I know I am. So without further delay, I'm Kevin McShad. Let's have this conversation. I began my conversation with Mahoney by asking him to describe the origins of his company and why luxury travel and vacationing is such a personal and professional passion project for him. Shane, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to learn all about your experience in travel and tourism, buddy. Great to see you this afternoon, and thank you for a few minutes, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Like I said, I think it's great to be able to get the word out. I think we do a lot of things that are very different and interesting. And I encourage everyone to explore international travel as a way to be a window to the world and a window to yourself. No, it's a great question. I think I led the typical American life. I got a great job out of college, and I just sort of followed the next job and the next job until, I realized that what I really wanted to do with my life was help people travel better. But during the entire time that I was in corporate world for 12 years, I felt like I had a very common story, and I felt like everybody I talked to had kind of the same track. And it was that everybody ends up, at Thanksgiving or Christmas around the dinner table, surrounded by your family, realizing that one, we probably had a better financial year than we probably expected we were going to have. Everything is going pretty good. And two, that in spite of our successes, we were not able to spend as much quality time with our friends and our family as we really wanted to. And so that frustration usually manifests itself around the dinner table in like, hey, let's take a family vacation next year. And everybody's like, yeah, let's do it. Right. And, but the reality is that planning international travel can be a little stressful, and it's very difficult to measure one hotel versus another. Where should you stay? Where should you go? What should you visit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so really the reality is that we as Americans, we kind of kick this can down the road of planning, right? It's like, it's too stressful. I'm back at work starting January 3rd, and it's just like, it's too easy to get back into our lives and not really think about planning the travel that we thought would be the most important thing at the end of each year. And so, so the stress just sort of builds up and up and up. And basically what I think happens most of the time is you get to spring break and your kid's off and you're like, oh my goodness, we haven't planned anything. And now the sudden realization that hotels are going to be more expensive, flights are going to be more expensive, and everything is going to be this cascading problem, I think leads most American families towards hitting what I call the easy button. Staples had that great commercial. And that's usually something that just takes the stress off of you immediately and plans something. But the something, I feel, is not as good as it could be. So most people pick, like a cruise or, for example, a vacation that they've already taken before, because it's very easy to plan that. You know where to go, what to stay, where, what to do. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to address the American market with something that was very, very easy. We actually call it two things. We call it a vacation from planning a vacation. And we've implemented a system that we call 5 minutes to luxury travel. And that's literally all it takes. Now, most of my competitors are going to be able to get you a personalized quote in about 5 to 7 days. And it's the same thing that I did for close to 10 years. And once that's given, you would think, oh, okay, well, that's great. Everything's cool. But the realities of that is that every single client that I've ever worked with wants some change, maybe a change of dates, maybe a change of place, maybe an addition here, subtraction there. And so what ends up happening is now you have another 5 to 7 days before you have the revisions and the information and the pricing and everything else. And so if you think about the track that I just described, you've got all this stress that's been building up for 3-4 months, and then you finally make the decision to call a professional, and then you now have another week or 2 weeks of stress just building and building and building. What I wanted to do is eliminate all of that. And so what we've invented is a system that allows anybody to get any of our proposals on any tour, good for any dates of the year, in under 5 minutes. And by yourself, without the help of anybody at all, you can completely customize it just the way that you want to. And when it's exactly the way that you want to, you can sign our contract, pay our deposit, and then you tell us when you want to go. And it's that easy. So being able to take that stress out of that process is the most important thing that I've been able to do. Because of course we do great trips and have great guides and hotels and all those things. You're going to have all those Instagram worthy pictures. But there's no reason to have all that additional stress in the planning phases too. So that's kind of where I get really passionate about that, because I think that we can elevate everybody's travel while also making the process, as easy as it should be.
Yeah, and one of the ways that you have a secret sauce at Lugos Travel is by working with a small group of operating systems so that you can sort of narrow the luxury market and offer exceptional experiences worldwide. So tell me about the secret sauce of the company, if you would.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So like, how do we do something that takes every other company 5 to 7 days in 5 minutes? That's a legitimate and great question, right? What we did is we basically broke every single tour into 2 parts. And the first part is what we call the essential tour. And the Essential Tour is a structure that works for every single location, whether you've never been there or you've been there 5 times. It's all the things that you would need. So the Essential Tour includes private, English-speaking, gratuity included transportation anytime you have your luggage or anytime it's more than 20 minutes from point to point. And we start that at your front door. So you don't even drive to the airport with us. You have a ride to the airport. Everything is taken care of. Everything. The second thing is hotels. Obviously, we typically do 4-star and up hotels. We focus on boutique style hotels where we can feature an architectural or historical component of where you're visiting. They're typically in a city center. And here's what's really nice, Kevin. We do minimum 1 category upgrade on every single room we sell. So you're never going to be in the standard base room. You're always going to be in a superior or deluxe room. And that's how we are ensure that you get a better view, a little bit more space. And then lastly, we always include breakfast because nobody wants to like find out what they need to be doing. So now we have the rides. Now we have the car. If you take a train, we do that in first class. And then the last 2 things that make every trip great, we include a welcome dinner on the first night and a farewell dinner on the last night. And lastly, we do 1 privately guided English-speaking tour in each city you visit. And so the nice thing is that now, even if you take nothing else, our Essential Tour is absolutely perfect for international travel. But to be able to address people who want to customize their experience, we basically found that everybody falls into 1 or more of 4 categories. And what we did is we provide 4 to 5 curated options in each of those categories so that people can make this trip really their own. And the first category is what we call Savor. It's anything foodie related. Are you a foodie, Kevin? Do you like food? Yeah?
Yeah, I don't. It's hard for me to find a plate of food that I don't like, for sure.
Love it. So our foodie category includes tastings, wineries, breweries, cooking classes, Michelin star dining opportunities, all kinds of things food. Our second category is what we call Excite, and that's our adrenaline category. That could be driving a Ferrari on or off the track. That could be flying in a hot air balloon. We have whitewater raftings, alpine skiing, bungee jumping. Basically anything that's adrenaline related goes into that category too. Our third category is Explore, and that's anything cultural related. A lot of people like to take deep dives into the people or the culture or the place, and we offer some great opportunities to do that in that category as well. And lastly, our fourth category is what we call Pampered, and that is really for anybody who just wants the best of everything. We provide a 1-click option to be able to upgrade 100% of your rooms from either a 4-star to a 5-star hotel or going from a superior or deluxe room to a junior suite or a suite. And really, that's how we do things. And I found that most people fall into 1 or more of those categories. And our system allows you to see the price for the Essential Tour. And then you can literally just click and add each of the options that you might be interested in with a price that corresponds to it to make it absolutely simple. So that's how we do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, Shane, I'm wondering your thoughts on how do you create an authentic travel experience that is sustainable and memorable as well.
I love that you mentioned sustainability. So across the board, we donate a portion of the proceeds to carbon offsets because I think it's really important for us to be able to have an ecological component to international travel and make sure that we're taking care of the countries that we're in. Above and beyond that, a big reason that I wanted to focus on the types of tours that we do is because we're able to put a lot more dollars into the local communities that you visit. A lot of people don't know this, but commercial cruising, whether that's river cruises or the big boats, typically only put about $3 for each $100 that you spend back into the local economy. And that's a really bad proposition that's unsustainable over the long term, because now you have a lot of restaurants and ancillary services that are not getting really paid enough for the services they're offering in a given place. And so we wanted to be able to make sure that we could provide a better experience for the people you're visiting, not just the people that are visiting. Now, all in all, that's our sustainability pledge and what we do to make sure that we can keep this train rolling. But you had a second part to the question, and Kevin, remind me, what was that?
Yeah, I just wanted to know your thoughts on how do we make travel experiences more authentic and memorable.
Sure. So as far as authentic and memorable, I really have two things that I think would be informative to your viewers. The first thing is memorable. Let's take that. So Kevin, how many pictures have you seen from vacation pictures that's like you're like arm in arm with your person with like something behind you, right? It's like every vacation picture is basically like that. And so I noticed that basically those are great pictures that we put up on our Facebook pages, but those are not pictures that we usually spend hundreds of dollars to frame on canvas and put in our living room. And ultimately, I knew that when I created a memorable experience for a client, that the real mark of whether they enjoyed it was if they wanted to remember it often. And so I wanted to create tours that were picture worthy. And so we did that. And then to make sure that those pictures actually existed, we offer an option for any of our clients. That's a photography option. And so what we do is we pair you in 2-hour segments, either on one day or multiple days at your choice, with a professional photographer that we basically treat you just like paparazzi. And so we use medium to long range lenses. We're not telling you to pose here or do this, but our clients are getting fantastic pictures of them with the real smiles as they walk arm in arm with something cool behind them, as opposed to posing and doing the normal shots that we get.
And it's an upgrade over the selfie, isn't it?
Well, it's not enough to make a great trip. We wanted to also make it something that people could really go back in their minds to every time they looked at that picture at home. And so we've just got like a bank of clients that have opted for this package. And I got to tell you, the pictures that come from it are absolutely phenomenal, just absolutely phenomenal.
Absolutely. And, Shane, every corner of our country was touched by the coronavirus pandemic. And I don't have to tell you that the travel industry was hit particularly hard by it. And I'm wondering how you think the travel industry as a whole will recover from the pandemic. And how do we make sure that it stays economically viable as well?
Yeah, obviously the pandemic wrecked travel. I mean, for starters, our company went 15 months with absolutely no business. It's a blessing and a curse because, of course, we weren't able to sell what we're in business to sell. But alternatively, what it did is it really freed me up to be able to think more critically about what we're doing and how we're doing it, which is where we birthed the idea of the 5 minutes to international travel and the ability of implementing the Essential Tour. So if COVID hadn't happened, I would have never been able to innovate that way and get those pieces in place to make travel better for everybody. But that being said, while we can't plan for some of the worst things that could happen, what we can do is take stock in the fact that I think we all were able to make a massive response and a massive show of support for each other. And now what we're seeing is that travel is not just coming back, it's coming back with a vengeance. I mean, right now, the bookings are absolutely through the roof worldwide. And so what that's doing is that's driving pressures on availability at hotels, guides, and prices, and all sorts of things are going up. But we're taking steps personally through Lugos Travel to make sure that we can insulate our clients from some of those problems. And that's one of the things that we've been doing since the very beginning, which is private luxury tours. And Kevin, this is so important, okay? Because most people have experience with group tours. Almost nobody has experience with private tours. And if you've ever been on a group tour, then you completely are going to be able to relate to one of the other 15 people that you are on a tour with, not listening to the rules, being late, always waiting on them, like all these issues. And the guides themselves are actually on a very scheduled amount of time. They have to be here at such and such a time. They have to be leaving at such and such a time to be at the next place. And ultimately what that produces is an experience where I think clients can feel like they're being herded like cattle almost. You know, if you've ever been in a museum and you've seen somebody holding up a paddle with a number on it that says like group 12, you know, and somebody's like, group 12, we've got to go. And I want you to imagine what it's like to spend thousands of your hard-earned dollars to go to a place that you've been wanting to go to your entire life, and then having a stranger tell you that it's time to go. I never thought that was right. And so what we did is we only do private journeys where if you're enjoying what you're seeing, we want you to be able to have infinite amount of time to stay there and do that. But conversely, in respecting your time and your money and the value proposition, if you don't like what you're doing, with a private guide, you just say, hey, listen, I'm really not that into this. They are not invested in what you do, and we can immediately and completely change the tour towards something that you do like. And so not only is it a better experience overall, but if COVID has taught us anything, it's that being in a private journey is absolutely the best way, because now you encounter so many fewer people as part of your experience. Our journeys are really only for the couple, the family, or the friends that wish to travel together, and nobody else. So that's how we can give a really top level experience that also exposes our clients to the least amount of issues in terms of COVID or sickness related things, and also give the absolute best value for what you're spending.
Well, it provides you a unique competitive advantage, doesn't it?
It's been, you know, it's like I said, it's a blessing and a curse. We were able to do a lot of cool things with the time that I think is really going to make a big difference in how people enjoy our tours. Can I share with you something else?
Absolutely, yeah.
So Kevin, I'm sure you've done some traveling, is that right?
I have, buddy. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let me ask you this. Have you ever gotten a bottle of champagne put in your hotel room?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Okay, great. Now let me ask you this. Were you in France when that happened?
No, I wasn't.
Boom. Okay. So one of the big things that I keyed in on is that a lot of travel professionals in the world really quickly and easily, typically with one line of an email, can get a bottle of champagne into a client's room. And generally speaking, it's well received, right? I'm sure you were like, wow, this is really nice. How cool is that, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But here's the thing. My clients are paying me to be a professional in the countries that they wish to visit. And so if you pay me for a Greece or an Italian or a Belgian or an Icelandic vacation, and I gave you a bottle of champagne, ultimately what I've done is I've given you a French experience when you paid me for something else. And so what we developed was a custom daily amenities kit. And I'm really proud to say that we're giving this entire kit for free for the entire journey for anybody that pulls a proposal and purchases within 3 days. But here's how this works. What we've done is we've found locally sourced, locally produced specialties in every area that we do business, so that we can immerse you in the culture and the people. And we have one of those items delivered to your hotel room every day. And those can be in categories like knives, candles, jewelry, clothes, wooden bowls, colognes, perfumes, food, non-food, alcohol, non-alcohol, you name it. What we care about is that it's a local specialty of that area. And so you, our client, excuse me, don't miss out on a unique opportunity to immerse yourself in the culture and people just because you didn't walk down the right street or stop in the right store. And so what we wanted to do is insulate you so that we can be the experts in what we're doing and bring that expertise to our clients to have a better experience.
Absolutely. And, Shane, I wanted to share this with you, buddy, because I was fascinated to get your perspective. So I was actually born with what's called a spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. Simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. So every time I travel, it's a little bit more of an adaptive experience to accommodate my disability.
Okay.
For instance, when I get on an airplane, and every time I get on an airplane, I have to be put into something called an aisle chair. It's kind of like a high chair for airplanes. And what happens is I get wheeled to my seat by airport security, and then they lift me out of this thing that looks like a high chair. And every time I go into one of these things, Shane, I feel like an astronaut because there's so many straps and I'm strapped to the moon. But anyway, my question is for you in particular, and I'm wondering if you've given any thought on how we can better accommodate individuals with disabilities to make sure that their travel experiences are authentic, memorable, and also, as for lack of a better term, as normal as possible.
Kevin, that is a phenomenal question, and one that's plagued me since the beginning of time, since the beginning of my business. It's really, really difficult to overcome some of the challenges when you start thinking about how European societies are, for example, much more walking built societies. So there's more stairs, there's less availability of elevators. It's less accessible. There are smaller rooms. They're not as easy. So there's really a lot of challenges above and beyond the airplane, and also what you're going to do and where you're going to go. So we've taken some experience in this over the last decade to be able to ensure that we can give the best possible experience. But in truth, sometimes it can be a little bit challenging. And so we do take some accommodations, working with professional partners in each of our countries to be able to smooth out those processes as much as possible. And in certain cases, what we do is we would be able to step up more transportation issues, where we can bring in private transportation instead of public transportation. We can handle a lot of the tours with special access, where, for example, in certain museums where you might have more stairs, we can actually coordinate with the museums to be able to make sure that we have the best possible experiences for people who are in wheelchairs. And that extends to really so many other facets of the different disabilities that we've worked with in the past. But it is a challenge, absolutely. And it's one of those things that, we take a lot of care to be able to make sure that we put that extra effort in to make sure that your experience is no less than anybody else's. And but you know what I love is that you said you feel like an astronaut, because my son absolutely wants to be an astronaut. If I'm going to tell him about that.
Well, put him in an aisle chair on an airplane and tell him it was sponsored by Kevin, okay?
Well, I will definitely do. I'm not kidding. It's been 4 years in a row he's been an astronaut for Halloween. And I asked him what he wants to do for Halloween this year. And he's like, astronaut. That's it. I was like, okay.
Well, at least the kid knows what he wants and is consistent, right?
True story. True story.
And Shane, I'm also fascinated to ask you about how do you take the mantra or motto of celebrating life and living it to the fullest? Because, for me, buddy, it's important to always celebrate the wins in life, no matter how big or small. So tell me, how do you celebrate the wins in life?
From my personal perspective, I like to celebrate life with experiences. I'm really not a stuff person, so I'm less motivated by the new thing that can be bought, and much, much more motivated by some of the experiences that can be had. I mean, obviously, that's maybe a shortcut for like, hey, I'm really into travel, but at the end of the day, it's really not even just about travel. For me, I like celebrating my wins with my family, my friends, and it could be as simple as just an afternoon, going to play golf, or just spending a little bit of time hanging around a fire pit and having a good conversation, maybe a couple of cold drinks. So that's, I'm a pretty simple person as it comes to celebrating my wins. As it comes to celebrating wins for clients, one of my favorite classification of trips to work on is honeymoons. Honeymoons, anniversaries. I love being able to create an experience for a particular couple or family that's looking to celebrate their love for each other or something like that. And I'll tell you, I've gone so far as to be able to plan very specific things that I knew would happen at a very specific time, and waiting by my phone for the text that's like, oh my gosh, did you just surprise me with blah, blah, blah? And knowing that my clients are going to be able to have that genuine smile at the exact moment and that I created that's a big personal win for me, but it's nothing compared to what I think is the personal win for them. And
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. And I know one of the ways you do that is that you have a James Bond experience where you put your clients in the middle of the movie. So tell me all about it. I'm fascinated.
So I will absolutely tell you about that, Kevin. I like to caution that most of my tours are much more accessible to the average person. Okay. But the James Bond experience is designed very specifically for someone who has done it all, seen it all, and has more money than they know what to do with, but wants to have an experience that is literally life-changing. And so what I did is I took over a decade of experience in the travel industry, as well as a wealth of connections that I have across the globe, to be able to create an experience that really puts you, like you said, kind of in the movie. And so let me detail kind of how that goes, because there's a lot to it. And I obviously don't want to shortchange it at all. All right. So first off, let's get the price out of the way. It's $1 million for one person for 16 days. That's it. Okay. How that goes. We start off each client. All of the travel, by the way, is done by private jet. So that's first off. But we start off the experience with 3 days at a U.S. government-approved training facility that currently trains everybody from the CIA to the LAPD. Our client would be doing things like surveillance detection routes. You're learning how to do dead drops, learning how to shoot from helicopters, different equipment, techniques, all sorts of things. Okay. At the end of the 3 days, we would release custom gadgetry to the client and we send them home. Now, sometime within the next month, we give them 24 hours of notice and they pack absolutely nothing. They show up at the airport in the clothes that they have on their back and they go to Northern Italy for what is then an 8-day Hollywood script written, choose your own adventure, live action role play game with real actors that you have no idea who's an actor and who's just somebody on the street. And we basically immerse you in an experience that completely evolves and revolves around whichever decisions you make in the stated goal of defeating Spectre. And because you packed nothing, We provide all of your clothes and toiletries, custom tailored clothes, head to foot. Those are delivered to your hotel room with luggage, obviously. And those are yours to keep. So let's just say the storyline goes a little bit crazy. There's all kinds of things that you would expect in a Bond movie, including a casino and like I said, some fast cars and all kinds of cool stuff. But at the end of the 8 days, once you've defeated Spectre, then we fly you and your significant other wherever they are in the world concurrently to the GoldenEye estate in Jamaica for an additional 5 days, all inclusive, just hanging out and reminiscing over your stories. At the end of the experience, once you get home, we provide a 12-month Aston Martin lease waiting for you paid in full. And lastly, several weeks or months later, we'll provide a video of your entire experience that was taken by a military surveillance team using buttonhole, infrared, night vision, regular cameras, you name it. It was all taken without you ever seeing the camera people. So this is a top level surveillance team that is going to be able to put together a highlight reel of what you did, what it looked like, and how it went down. That is the James Bond experience.
Well, you get what you pay for, right?
For sure.
Yeah, and Shane, my final question for you has to do with, I know that you've traveled, first of all, they tell me that you've traveled around the world 8 times, buddy. So before I get to my final question, tell me about that experience and where your sense of adventure comes from.
So my dad used to drill for oil on an exploratory ship in the Indian Ocean. And so my life growing up was we basically moved every year to 3 years. And so I lived in Borneo for a year. I lived in Australia for 3 years. I'd been kind of all around that area growing up, and then moved back to Florida, then was an exchange student in Barcelona in high school. And so like, I guess I got bit by the travel bug pretty early, and was able to see a lot of people and cultures. And what it really did for me more than anything else was able to see how alike people are versus how different people are. And I really think that it's so easy for us to get caught up in like the other, mentality, right? There's like those other people and they're like different than me. And really the reality that I've experienced my entire life is that more people are the same than they are different. We all want to have a good life. We always want to have our kids grow up in a safe environment with good education and have an opportunity to have a good job. And, there's really so much about everybody in the world that's so much the same that if I could get people to concentrate on those things as opposed to the differences, I really knew that we could affect positive change worldwide. And so really me starting my travel company was an extension of wanting to be able to put people together, not drive them apart. And so that's been a major focus of my life. And even though I've been able to have a lot of great experiences doing things in all these exotic and different places, ultimately that's really my goal. My goal is to be able to make it a smaller world for people, so that they can enjoy a different look at basically the people and culture that are around them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And tell me, Shane, one of the things when I think about legacy for myself is, for me, the tragedy of life is not when you die. It's refusing to live when you still have air to breathe, buddy. So my final question for you has to do with your own individual and personal legacy. How do you want to sort of define the dash between the years that you were born and the year that you died? So tell me, how do you want to define your dash?
That is a fascinating question, and what it brings to mind is something that I recently was exposed to as an idea, and I think a lot of people end up making like a 5-year plan or maybe a 10-year plan. And I was recently exposed to the idea of making a 100-year plan. And that really resonated with me because it got me to think outside of like just me and myself. And it really got me to think about my legacy. So when you start thinking about 100 years, you're not just talking about your life, you're talking about your kids' lives. And honestly, you're talking about your kids' lives in large part too. And so I will say this, I do not yet have my 100-year plan finished. But I am in fact working on putting something together, and my legacy is going to be hopefully that I helped a lot of people not only have great experiences in their lives, but connecting and reconnecting with their loved ones. And also, and we didn't even talk about it, but I developed a website that called Travel to Give Back. And our stated goal is by 2035 to be able to donate $1 billion to local charities in the United States. So what we're doing is we're leveraging everyday travel, things like hotels, flights, and rental cars, into something that can create donations at no additional charge to the clients using the system, so that they can donate to charities they know, like, and trust, but without it costing them anything extra. And so, I really want to be able to not only change and shape the hearts of people, but also I really want to leave a lasting mark in terms of what we can do for helping others. And I think if I can do that, then the legacy I leave to my son and any kids that he may future have would be something I can be proud of. And I'm okay with that.
Absolutely. Well, I think you're off to a running start in achieving that 100-year legacy for sure, buddy. And just very quickly, if people want to get connected with Lugos Travel, or you in particular, what's the best way they can do that, buddy?
Sure. And I want to say thank you, by the way, for having this opportunity to be able to speak to your audience. I hope that I was able to bring a little bit of value. But anybody who wishes to connect with me can connect with me at ShaneMahoney360.com. That's ShaneMahoney360.com. That has access to all of my websites. You can schedule time on my calendar. You can text me. You can call me. You can see everything that I do is all right there. And like I said, ShaneMahoney360.com.
Fabulous. Well, Shane, I really enjoyed an opportunity to engage in conversation with you about your work in the luxury travel industry and all the things that make you personally and professionally fabulous, buddy. Your work in the space and time on my behalf is most appreciated, and I want to thank you for being here this afternoon.
You're so kind. Thank you so much, Kevin, and I appreciate it.